All right, y'all. Y'all know who it is. It's the Madman. We coming straight to you live and direct. And today we here to talk about Sean Combs, The Reckoning. You know, last night I got to watch all four parts. Came out 3 a.m. on the dot. You know, I was out here driving, so I was getting to it. Part of my driving. You know, ain't too many people on the road, but you know how we truckers do. But I really want to say 50 Cent was right. You know what I mean? I think Sean Combs will really appreciate this documentary, being that with 50 Cent being the executive producer on this documentary, it's pretty fair. It's pretty fair. It's the most fair you can get, or it's the most fair you will get from a known person who hates you. You get what I'm saying? I feel like Netflix definitely stepped in and did their part of showing him in a good light per se. You know, and overall the documentary is to show how this egotistical monster came to be. And I believe they hired 50 Cent, or he came to them with whatever footage or whatever his perspective was on the egotistical monster side, and with Netflix being the home for this documentary and like the for the lifespan, right? Because this documentary will live on outside of like a courtroom injunction or whatever. But I think Netflix said to themselves, if we want to house this documentary on our platform, which will live forever, we can't necessarily, or we don't want to be the ones who is only casting this on a with a biased net. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really here to point out everything I thought was fair within this documentary. You know what I mean? Now, I know 50 Cent said on Good Morning America, I believe this is the best documentary. If uh this would be Diddy's, Sean Combs, Love, Brother Love, his perspective on it. And I think it it should be his perspective on it. I'm saying from a non-biased view. If if we're gonna have documentaries being being put together by somebody on either side, it this is would be the best one without looking at any other ones to come. You know what I'm saying? With thinking of in the with thinking in perspective of the future, if there was, like, say his kids put out a documentary, I believe this gave it a good balance. You know what I mean? And the documentary, four parts, pretty much episode one starts with his childhood, the raising of who who Sean Combs was as a kid, right? Now, it definitely showed. I'm gonna say this. Hold on. Let's start with this. I believe Netflix and 50 Cent and I guess whoever's in charge, I think Alexandria, they decided to pinpoint exact moments in Diddy's life where the villain was displayed. Like this, it's like arcs to where the good and evil will had to make a decision, like that fork in the road. And they pick points to where you can clearly see he meant good, it went wrong, and this where evil, egotistical projection may have occurred, as long with having video audio proof to back up these these uh these points. Now, one of the great things that I found, which kind of goes with the balance of it, for in Sean Carter's favor, I mean Sean Carter, Sean Combs' favor, Diddy, they they uh they had reading points throughout the documentary. Like when somebody came up, they described who they were, and instead of waiting to, you know how documentaries or movies wait to the end and say, well, this person is doing this now and this person is doing that now. They had these talking points throughout the documentary to where it didn't let it linger to who this person was, what they brought, what they came with, how their cases turned out, or any of those things. So when, like, the first point came when they Diddy was a kid, and it kind of showed that he was abused. They make claims that his mother beat him so bad that it kind of shaped his perspective on life, or it would have had to affect him from how terrible the beatings were. You get what I'm saying? So, like, they had a let- let's say if you didn't see the documentary, right, or if you seen it, Diddy lived in a duplex, or I guess you would say he lived on the upstairs of this house, and a somebody lived. I don't know who he was per se to him before they lived together, but say another family lived with it in Diddy's house, and Diddy's mom and pops. Well, I guess it was Diddy and his mom. They lived in this house. Diddy lived upstairs with his moms, and the other people lived downstairs with mom, dad, and their son. So they explained that. So this guy, I believe his name Kirk, who he grew up with at a certain period of time in his life. I guess throughout his life, but I guess say they met at 7. They all lived in one house. He described, yeah, I got beatings, but what he got was like beat down. See what I'm saying? And then when before that, like after that scene, they put a talking point or a text point of, hey, we reached out to Diddy's mom for in regards to how bad the beatings were, or the physical abuse, as they say, and she declined to comment. Now, did they actually reach out or not? That's on them. Are they saying that just to cover themselves? That's on them. But to me, it made it fair. It's not like we're gonna just say anything and not put a disclaimer so as to have a retort to whatever the claim of the documentary is. And I'm saying that to say that makes it fair. That makes it fair in the sense of this is not just a biased documentary where we're going to make claims and act like what we say is true. See what I'm saying? It gives some type of leeway to where you can now leave this scene and say, okay, there might be another side to that. It's not just straightforward. It allows the onlooker, the viewer, to still be optimistic about whatever the documentary is skewing towards. And we all know with 50 Cent being the executive producer, we know where ultimately it's skewing towards, and we already know the trial and everything, right? Boom. Another point they made was how when Diddy threw the celebrity basketball game at the community college in New York, right? And the whole stampede happened and 9 people died. Now, in that, like I said, like my point to the whole theme is evenly balanced. Now, they did show Diddy have his press conference and they allowed him to state, you know what, I did this out of the kindness of my heart. I did this for my young black people. I did this for my black people to see somebody doing well. We having fun. We having a good together. I'm trying to bring little celebrity basketball to the community, and I'm trying to do well. And some things happen that was not meant to happen, and it wasn't on the plans. We It wasn't an anticipation like, oh, we're gonna overbook this thing and have these people wanting to bum rush the center, which they did, and it ended up in people being trampled to death. But it just, and I say in a biased documentary for Diddy's side, right? They may not show the trampoline side in 9 people dying. They may just want to show, yo, this is where he just wanted to get back to the community. You know what I'm saying? And with it being so public, I would guess they would have to show that side. But they chose in this documentary, they chose to show him saying, "Hey, I was trying to do this a good thing." You know what I'm saying? And obviously, they ended it with a, this is the most famous at this point in my life, right? Diddy's what, 19, 20. This is the most famous I've ever been from a tragedy. So that tragedy made the villain arc what it is. And that's kind of what, but like I said, the documentary in itself is showing the duality of being good, something being wrong, but the wrong, whatever went wrong to this nth degree, it just made me that much more of a villain. You know what I'm saying? It made me that much more egotistical to where it leads into Diddy, like for weeks he went into a hotel into hiding per se. And his mom comes over and she says something along the facts of, well, maybe you don't need to be doing this. And then they say, oh, he ends up smacking his mom up. You know what I'm saying? Or choking out his mom or smacking her up because he's like, nah, this is who I'm supposed to be. Don't, it's kind of like, don't ever say that. Like, I'm trying to let things die down, but don't ever like think that this ain't what I'm supposed to be doing. I guess that's what they were trying to say. And then, after that, they put a text message saying, we reached out, but nobody came to wanted to make a comment on this thing. You know what I'm saying? I believe it was very fair. There's a lot of points in this documentary where, yes, it is skewed to the fact that every one of these points, Diddy is making a decision to be a villain, but it's also showing how it could have went another way. if he was willing to be just a good guy, I guess. Um I another like when it comes to the ladies, right? This is to me, this is what I see when I see the doc. When it came to the ladies, when it came to Misha, I believe her name is. Pardon me if I'm messing that up. When it came to Kim Porter, these people all when it came to Cassie, all three of these ladies, in a sense, had men when when he wanted them, right? Before he got them, they had men. And they made Diddy they made a point to say, yes, Diddy eventually got him, but he only wanted these women because the men that they were with were these stars and he envied them. You see what I'm saying? Diddy grew up, it started off by Diddy grew up well to do and not in the hood. You know what I'm saying? In Mount Vernon. And he kind of idolized the hood or the Basana because he at some point he found out who his dad was. His mom always dressed him to be a certain king or a prince, and how she dressed him in furs and different hats. She always kept him stylish, even though he necessarily wasn't bred to be that. You know what I'm saying? But his mom mentally enforced that, no, this is who you are, this is how you need to carry yourself. But there was no man around because his dad was gone so early. His dad got killed at a young age. So it's like your mode, it's like you're giving somebody gems and how to move, but not teaching them how to move, because it's like you just pouring into them of this is who you are, but not how to carry it per se is what I would say. So when it came to women, he looking at Al B. Sure and how hot Al B. Sure is at the particular moment, and Kim Porter is the receptionist or the assistant, and that's Albie Shore's woman, and he's looking like, I need to get her because if that's who she looks up to, I'm him. See what I'm saying? When it's Eric Sermon and Eric Sermon got something going on, and Misha is his lady, and who he perceives to be his lady at the moment. Oh, this beautiful girl likes that guy. I believe I'm that guy. So if she likes him, she definitely would love me. See what I'm saying? The same with Ryan Leslie. I see a beautiful woman with Ryan Leslie. I'm more than Ryan Leslie, so she needs to be with me. It's an envy thing, and it's made to me how they're portraying it is he's always looking at who he envies and wants to take that girl. You see what I'm saying? So that's always the vulnerability to me in the guy who always think he's tough. Like, no, you're only doing this. It's not that you could. It's not that you can't go out here and get any girl, right? It's not that you necessarily can't stack up and per se, but in your mind, you're really only focusing on people you're jealous of and you're envious of, and that's your vulnerability. But you're using that and enforcing your money, your power on how do I take over, even with Biggie. Like They say he was jealous of Tupac because Tupac came around big, and then they started clicking up, and Biggie is supposed to be his right hand man. Though, and they even said they found the clip of Diddy saying, "Yo, when I met Big, he's the only person I could trust." Like it came down to that's how close I am to him. He's the only person I could trust out of all the people in my life. I mean, I guess outside of his mom or whatever. But it was like, so now when Tupac comes around and y'all doing all this running around, you going on his tour and you hanging out, now it becomes a opponent for me. And I don't need you to be as close to him as you are to me. And I don't I don't remember where they're saying he actually gets that from, but it was I know his childhood brother, you want to say the one who grew up with him from a child, like he was the only child. So then when he entered the picture, they were together. Diddy used to get bullied as a kid, and so he had to learn to fight, and because his mom was saying, I'm not raising no princess." I don't know if she ever actually said that, but in the documentary they was saying how she was raising a prince, and I'm not raising no princess. So that was with the terrible beatings coming on. So he always had to hold himself up to some high regard. And then, like I said, even when he found out who his dad is, they say he looked up to Alpo. Alpo being a young, black, fly, dope dealer, getting the women. Oh, that's who I need to be because now I know who my dad is. I know where my dad comes from, Harlem. I need to live up to that because that's within me. My mom raised me to be this prince, to be this king, and like I said, you might have all the jewels, you might have the confidence, but without guidance and how to use these tools, you become a recluse. And that's what it was. They showed it when he was dealing with Andre Harrell. They sh- they just showed it throughout, and that's how the monster was created. Now, the only thing I didn't like about this documentary, not only thing, but the few things I didn't like was I believe it's fair that a lot of people feel like he had something to do with Tupac's death. Some people feel like he had something to do with Biggie's death. Come 2025 now, throughout the years, certain things came out, and they even said it in this documentary. Like, you know, he was in competition with Tupac, and after the hit 'em up thing, and I mean after the Quad Studios thing, and then Tupac made hit 'em up, and he wanted to go at Big, but Big didn't want to go at him because he felt like if that wasn't me, I'm not trying to take part in that. But he was trying to push that, and he felt like if somebody's coming at us, we need to be going at them. But at the same time, when it came to the Source Awards, when Suge Knight said what he said about all of if you don't want producers dancing in the videos, getting on your song, they did show him saying, "Hey, I'm the one who that comment was about, but I'm about peace. I'm about bringing us together, and I still love the West Coast, and we all in here together tonight." So, and like I said, they showed the duality of who this person, who Diddy is. You know what I'm saying? But they just is skewed toward these things made him very egotistical and felt like he can't be touched. So I didn't like. I really did like. Like I said, it's fair, because there are people who believe that he had something to do in these murders, but it was hard to watch knowing knowing 50 Cent is behind this, to be honest with you. It's hard to it's fair, but it's hard to watch to 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 watch a documentary where it's kind of pushing that nah, he might really be behind this. You see what I'm saying? That I didn't like. That I didn't like. Another thing I didn't like. I mean, it wasn't here or there, but the Eric Sherman thing. Eric Sherman told a story about how Diddy threw a punch at him. How Diddy threw a punch at him, and he was confused because he wasn't no longer with the girl. So they went around the corner. They drove around the corner, and then they didn't fight. And somehow he started listening to the Biggie album. Now, I believe it's editing. I want to put that on record. I don't know how many people gonna bring this part up and kind of laugh at it. I laughed at it because how it was, but I think it was all editing. I believe when Eric Sherman sat down and did his interview, right? I believe he told the story of how Diddy swung on him, thinking he was with this girl, but they were just friends, and they went around the corner. And I believe since there wasn't a fight, they figured, oh, we don't need the end of this story. We just need to know, y'all went around the corner. There was no fight. We don't really care about y'all. By the time y'all got around that corner, y'all didn't talked it out and worked it out. So they cut that part out, and then I believe it was. I don't believe it happened all in the same timeline. I believe it probably went like, all right, we went around the corner. We By the time we got around the corner, we talked it out. No fight ever happened. But then the next time I seen him, he pulls me in the car talking. The next time I seen him, he pulls me in the car and he's like, "Hey, listen to this, and this is Biggie." That's when I heard Biggie. I believe that's what was the edit. They just kind of took those two timelines and combined it because right after that, that's how they introduced Biggie to the documentary. Eric Sherman says he sat me in the car. He put Biggie in, and now they start talking about Biggie. So I believe that was just a bad edit. I didn't like that. What threw me off, and like I said, I believe it's fair, was the first lady. Her last name Neil. It threw me off that sh- if you follow me, you know I'm not a big component of sexual assaults that happened 10, 20 years ago. I'm just a man who, coming from a man's perspective, I just feel like somebody shouldn't be able to accuse me of sexual assault from so long ago simply because there's no way for me to defend it. That's pretty much it. Not that it didn't happen, not that it couldn't happen, not that the person really did it. It's just when you wait so long and that stain on that person's jacket is so strong and it never comes off, it's I don't understand how such a thing can be made, such an accusation could be made that is just indefensible. Like what video can I go to? What text message from a phone that I had 20 years ago that I probably don't have anymore? And I'm talking about phones now that we got We get new iPhones and Androids every year, every 2 years. This is back in the 90s, back in 91, where there was no cell phones. There was big phones. It was no text messages you can go back to. I can't go back to the videotape of when we was in the nightclub or the club or at the ATM or the store. It was no cameras like that around the city to where I could just go to a place and say, "Hold on, she's saying I did this to her, but we did go out, but we was chilling the whole time or whatever, whatever." See what I'm saying? When you make a claim from 91, 92, how does a man defend himself to say, "Nah, that didn't happen"? See what I'm saying? But anyway, the Miss Neal, it threw me off because it that was the first person that said, "Oh, I made a claim." And what, like I said, it was fair to me simply because at the end of her section and in that first episode, they put the text message up. Hey, she went to court, it's still pending. She's one of the accusers. You know what I mean? So they named her as one of the accusers. So she's no, I'm not saying that she wasn't known, but she's not like a Jane Doe. She's not like somebody who's just doing this for the documentary. So we could look at the documentary. We can go look up her name. We can go see when she filed it in 2024, 25, or whatever. And so we could follow her story, but it didn't wait to the end of the doc to say, "Oh, this person," now that we didn't forgot about her from episode one. I just like that right after they did her clip, they actually put that text in there. Now, the last thing I want to end this thing on, because I'm not here to really do spoilers or whatever. I just think it was a fair documentary. I think it's one of the most fair documentaries you're gonna get from either perspective. I don't really see how Diddy's kids can do a documentary any better. I mean, they can do it to persuade his side and his view of things from a healthy standpoint or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I just the dirty money, not Dawn, but the other lady, I forget her name, Miss, I just want to address you in this one, and I don't know if you'll ever hear this or anybody else will address it, but you had you had came out for Diddy, made a statement, but before you did that, in the documentary you were saying how you called Diddy to give you $5,000 because you was going through something with the father of your kids, a custody battle, and you needed money for better lawyers. And he didn't give it to you. He said he couldn't give it to you. He didn't have it. And you felt a way because I guess a couple weeks later, a month later, or whatever it was, he ended up calling you for a favor. Now, I get your I get why you're mad. I'm not saying you're wrong. But what I want you to understand, and maybe you already had this clarity, but I just had to say this. He couldn't give you the money. From the date of Cassie filing her lawsuit, and then he comes out the next day, 24 hours, it got settled, right? At some point, he finds out the feds is on him, right? There's an open investigation. They raid his house, all of the things. When Dawn filed her lawsuit, it came days before he actually got arrested, right? Not knowing when he was going to get arrested, we don't know that yet. But it came out days before. So, but he's already know he's being targeted as a FBI investigation is what I'm saying. Not knowing, because he did use this excuse. I don't know who the feds are targeting as witnesses against me. So yes, I have reached out to whoever I felt I could reach out to for their support. Even if that may be crossing the line he cannot do whatsoever at this point, whether it be for lawyer fees or not. I'm not even bringing up lawyer fees. I'm not saying it's for lawyer fees. I'm saying what he cannot do is be on record sending anybody the amount of money for whatever y'all may claim it to be. You see what I'm saying? Diddy had to say, yo, I ain't got it right now. He could have been saving up as his war chest for all the civil suits that already had came out. All this Fed investigation that he's in town knowing, oh, all right, they about to come get me. I need to pay millions or thousands or whatever I need to pay and still be able to run my family because they by the time they come they're gonna seize my assets. Whatever the understanding is, right? We know Diddy tried to sell his home. He tried to do things to get money up. But like let me reiterate one more time. This is to not Dawn, but the other girl in Dirty Money. Is no way at that particular moment he could have helped you out financially, because even if you wasn't on their radar as a witness to help them, they would have framed it like that. A $5,000 transaction to somebody you formerly work with during this federal investigation, it couldn't happen. And yeah, I thought I was gonna end it on that one. Last thing, Capricorn Clark. I just thought about Capricorn Clark. I know you got on the stand. I understand your testimony. Now we watching the documentary where I know you said, and the jury, two of the juries said your testimony was kind of far fetched with the kidnapping thing, and I did want to speak to that. The reason, if you don't know now, or is coming from me, my perspective, the reason why the kidnapping thing was kind of too dramatic is because most people been there where they were mad at someone and they took it out on someone else. And we, especially a cheating spouse, right? Even if you never had a cheating spouse, if you were mad at your brother, but you couldn't get to if you were mad at your parent, but you can't yell at your parent, you might have took it out on your brother. Get what I'm saying? We often, as people, understand if I can't necessarily lash out at the person that hurt me or the person I'm really mad at, the next person in line is maybe who's next to me. I don't think anybody sees what Diddy did as a kidnapping or he wanted to necessarily harm you. Even though he brought a gun out, he did threaten you, all of the things. And he told you, nah, we going over there now. Trust me, we understand that. But especially when you explain the story of you knew Kid Cudi and Cassie were messing around. You being that person that knew and didn't tell me, yes, I'm coming to you and being angry that you didn't tell me. And yes, I might threaten you because you allowed my girl to cheat on me. But everybody knows that anger is not for you. When he's saying no, you coming with me and we gonna go over there because I don't want her to be able to weasel out of this. You know, I know that she know that you know, and all of the things. That's how we look at that. I think that's how the jury looked at it. I think most of the people see the dramatization of, oh, he kidnapped me. You get what I'm saying? Not that you weren't kidnapped by law. If somebody's making you uh move beyond what 15 feet or whatever they say without your consent, you know what I'm saying? By force, obviously he had a gun and he's telling you I will kill you. Obviously, by the letter of the law, you are probably being kidnapped. You know what I'm saying? But when we're understanding, when we're hearing the story and the reason why, everybody's just thinking, no, you're the woman who knew about this guy's girl cheating on him with a dude. So he came to you, and now we gonna go both confront her so she can't weasel out of it. You see what I'm saying? So that's the last thing I'm gonna say on that. And the jury, it was I was expecting a little more to really, I mean, to hit a breakdown. Like I would have liked to got a little bit more of the jury of really what was being said in deliberations, when what was really a sticking point. What were there any sticking point? Were there just when y'all got back to the room? Nah, it's unanimous. There wasn't no racketeering. It was unanimous that it was um sex trafficking. Was there any type of fights going back and forth? How many people were for or against? What all of the things, like, cause y'all were in there for a couple days. So I really like the two jurors who spoke. They came in like the last 20 minutes of the documentary on episode 4. And I was really looking forward to hearing all of the things that went on per se. I really didn't get that. So, but all in all, once again, I do think this is the most fair documentary that can be had. I do believe I want to applaud I want to applaud 50 Cent and I think Alexandria, pardon me if I'm mistaken, Netflix, all in one, because I do believe, like I said in the beginning, Netflix said this will live on to forever. I do not want to have a totally biased documentary. I want to have a, maybe it can be skewed to make this man be an egotistical monster, but at least let's give grace and let's leave room for the viewer to make that decision. See what I'm saying? So once again, you're with the madman. We coming back to you. Thank you. Listen, I'm dropping another one soon. I'm out.